Michael Bublé is sitting in the coaching chair for the very first time in season 26 of The Voice, and he is bringing a fresh approach to the show. Bublé, who is well known for his own personal sound, which is reminiscent of the old pop music of the past, went out in quest of distinctive voices during the blinds, and he was successful in finding them. Now that we are in the battle round, Bublé is faced with the onerous responsibility of putting their voices against one another. Artist Edward Preble, who is 19 years old and hails from Fernandina Beach, Florida, is a human time capsule that has been preserved from a bygone era. During rehearsals and performances, he arrives dressed to the nines, wearing a suit that is reminiscent of the early 20th century, and he has a voice that is commensurate with his attire. In the meantime, Shiiba, a 29-year-old musician hailing from Swarthmore, Pennsylvania, exudes an air of laid-back beach cool while simultaneously channeling the singer-songwriters of the mid-century with a voice that is simultaneously imploring and commanding. The most difficult task that Bublé faced as a coach was to locate a song that was suitable for both of their wildly different vocal styles. In the end, he decided to use the heartbreaking classic What a Wonderful World, which was written by Louis Armstrong. It is going to require someone who is capable of giving it a sense of vitality. During the time leading up to the competition, Bublé expressed his confidence that both of them would perform admirably. This battle will come down to heart, it will come down to emotion, and it will come down to who can make us, the audience, feel the most, said the commentator. A battle between Shiiba and Edward Preble, the coaches of the Bublé team on The Voice. When Preble sang the first word of Armstrong's well-known ballad, he conjured up images of dimly lit barrooms and cigar smoke, as well as a classic tone. Shiiba took the second line, and the two of them traded the song back and forth, occasionally coming together for the harmonies and sparring one note at a time. Shiiba took the second line. Despite the fact that each of them is an expert in his own field, they each presented two versions of the song that were radically different from one another, but they managed to merge together in a way that was really stunning. The vocals put me into a trance as I closed my eyes, Snoop Dogg stated. I was completely at peace. The way you made it your own was going to take me to new heights. You could not have paired two people who were so different from one another in terms of their appearance, their manner, their vocals, and everything else, but it worked. According to Reba McEntire, the performance was really impressive. If I had to pick only one, I would probably go with Mark because it was so invigorating to hear something that was completely unlike anything else that I had ever heard before. As the lights went down for yet another night of The Voice Season 26 battles, the tension was tangible and could be detected. Two extraordinary talents were performing on stage. Shiiba, a Japanese-American crooner with a velvet voice, and Edward Preble, a soulful powerhouse hailing from New Orleans. Both of these exceptional talents were on stage. As their duet, they were performing the timeless classic What a Wonderful World, which had been selected by coach Michael Bublé, who was in charge of their performance. Michael was optimistic about the future of his team. He was aware that the song would present both singers with the task of discovering their individual artistic styles while simultaneously fitting in harmoniously. Michael sat forward in his chair as the opening notes of the famous Louis Armstrong tune began to play. His countenance was a mixture of pride and apprehensive eagerness as he waited for an opportunity to perform. On the other side of the stage, Reba McEntire, Gwen Stefani, and Snoop Dogg were watching the two vocalists with great interest, keenly anticipating how they would respond to the challenge that was presented to them. Mark began, his voice soft yet full, and with each line he painted vivid pictures in the listener's mind. His phraseology was thoughtful, and it perfectly captured the wistful beauty of the song. He was followed by Edward, who brought his distinctive soulful rumble to the second verse, his voice sounding like honey that had been dripped over gravel. During the chorus, their harmonies were amazing, and they were a great combination of their individual approaches. The audience was completely captivated. Backstage, Michael was so excited that he could hardly restrain himself. "This is the reason I do this," he stated to his colleagues as he turned around. "They are truly remarkable individuals." Reba appeared to nod in agreement. "A story is being told by those who are up there. It is precisely this that music is all about. Mark and Edward locked eyes as the song reached its climactic final phrase, and their voices entwined in a powerful crescendo as they sang together. The final note lingered in the air, and every single one of the four coaches and the crowd gave a standing ovation to that note. The microphone was in Carson Daly's hand as he made his way onto the stage. Oh my goodness, that was absolutely breathtaking. The entire group, including Mark Shiiba and Edward Preble. Another roar came from the crowd. As soon as it was time for the coaches to provide their opinions, Snoop Dogg was the first to speak into his microphone. Wow, that turned out to be as smooth as butter. Lyle took us on a journey, he added with the smile that has become his signature every time. Mark, your tone is insanely sophisticated. You have that soul, Edward, you are a man. Is it shared? Fire without a doubt. Gwen Stefani chimed in, her voice brimming with excitement as she spoke. It is remarkable how much control and grace you have in your voice, Mark. This real emotional depth was brought to the table by you, Edward. At this very moment, I would gladly purchase that duet. Reba's eyes sparkled as she shared her thoughts with the congregation. Both of you made sure to bring your A game. Mark, your precision is really stunning, and Edward, you have a way of making each note feel like a warm embrace. Please, Michael, you are going to have to make some difficult choices. A deep breath was taken by Michael, who was visibly torn. He began by saying, "To begin, I want to express how proud I am of both of you. Mark, your voice is like a warm blanket. It is so reassuring, and it is full of nuance. You sing with your whole heart, Edward, and it is difficult not to feel every word that you sing at the same time. Having to choose between the two of you is like having to choose between two masterpieces." As Michael considered, the audience members made sure to hold their breath. When he was finished, he declared, "The victor of this conflict is Edward." As Edward went forward, the crowd cheered and he was plainly overcome with emotion. Mark gave Edward a warm smile and a handshake before continuing. On the other hand, Michael raised his hand immediately before he could leave the platform. "Listen, hold on. There is no way that I will let Mark leave that simply." While he was trying to save the game, he pounded his button, which caused the crowd to cheer. "You're going to remain a member of Team Bublé." The expression on Mark's face changed, and he made a profound bow to both the crowd and his instructor. Backstage, the two singers were seen embracing and congratulating one another, which was a clear indication of the camaraderie that existed between them. The excitement surrounding their performance immediately spread, and it led to the dominance of social media. The duet was hailed by fans as being among the very finest in the history of The Voice. The song "What a Wonderful World" by Mark and Edward brought tears to my eyes. One tweet stated that it was literally perfect. "Michael Bublé's team just set the bar so high," commented another fan in their Facebook post. "Oh, what a thrilling." While everything was going on, Michael was giving interviews in which he discussed the significance of the song selection. "What a Wonderful World" is a song that has been passed down from generation to generation. It's about discovering the beauty that exists in life, even when things are difficult. I had no doubt that Mark and Edward would pull it off, but they went above and beyond my expectations. They established it as their own. Both Mark and Edward continued to impress during the course of the season, which resulted in their being invited to show up on the live shows. They became a living example of the transformative potential of mentorship, teamwork, and mutual respect throughout their journey. Quite frequently, Michael referred to them as shining examples of what The Voice was all about, which was the discovery and cultivation of talent that had the potential to touch hearts and transform lives. By the time the show came to a close, both singers had established their individual identities. Mark's performances were characterized by elegance and technical skill, but Edward's performances were visceral and genuinely touching. In spite of the fact that only one of them could ultimately emerge victorious, their competition continued to be a highlight, serving as a reminder of the beauty that occurs when two brilliant talents collaborate. When it came to Mark Shiiba and Edward Preble, "What a Wonderful World" was more than simply a song. It was a moment that shaped their journeys and made Coach Bublé proud. Additionally, it was a performance that the spectators will never forget to watch.